Hello everyone, I'm Holly from Handprinted. Today we're at Pallant House Gallery in Chichester to see their current exhibition, Hockney to Himid, 60 Years of British Printmaking. This exhibition features over 100 works made from the 1960s until now. As a printmaking shop and studio just down the road, we had to get involved and make some work inspired by what we see here at the exhibition. There are lithographs, screen prints, lino cuts, woodcuts, etchings, dry points and more. As printmakers, it's so exciting to see so many beautiful and significant original prints all in one place. Artists can achieve results from printmaking that other methods cannot replicate. One of the things that strikes us most among these works is the evidence of the process and the hand of the maker that can be seen in many of the works here. Barbara Hepworth, for example, experimented with printmaking at Kerwin Studios and Kelper Studios to create screen prints and lithographs. These prints by Hepworth here are amazing examples of expressive forms, marks and layering. Amazingly, these are screen prints. This one, November Green, required 10 print layers in green, 7 in brown and 3 greys. We're back in the Handprinted Studio now and really excited and inspired to use Hepworth's prints as a jumping off point for a print of our own. Hepworth's prints are amazing examples of expressive forms, marks and layering, so we'd like to go for a process-led approach to create our own abstracted painterly print, perhaps exploring similar sweeping round forms, colour washes, line work and layering, inspired by these two prints seen in Pallant today. I would love to focus in on those sweeping pencil lines and spontaneous looking colour washes in monotype with a dry point overlay. That way I think we can capture some of that spontaneity, some of those beautiful marks and the layering in the print. I'm going to use a watercolour monotype method. I'm actually going to use Brusho dyes for the first layer so I can get some colour washes and hopefully a little bit of that watercoloury texture. So I need to start by mixing up some Brusho dye. Brusho dyes are crystallised pigment colours that create beautiful effects when painted or sprinkled onto paper. They can be used for all sorts of different techniques, but I'm going to use them here for a monoprint. You can also use watercolour. Brusho dyes come in a huge variety of colours. These are really easy to use. You just mix them up with a little water. You can make them as strong or as weak as you would like. For this technique I need them to be quite strong, and you can also mix the colours to create your own shades too. So here I've mixed up some turquoise, ultramarine, burnt sienna, olive green, lime green and grey. I'm going to be using a dry point sheet as my plate. It's a perfect smooth surface to work on and it'll go through my press really easily. I've used masking tape to mask off a rough A4 area on the back of my sheet because that's where I want my working area to be. I'm going to eventually print on paper the same size as this sheet, so printing on this isn't going to give me any plate marks on my paper. That'll come with a second layer. I'm going to carefully move this out the way and leave it to dry completely overnight. If you can, get down to the exhibition, Hockney to Himid, at Pallant House Gallery in Chichester. It's on until the 24th of April 2022, so there's still time to go and see the amazing work. For printmakers like us, passionate about print, this exhibition is a dream come true, and it's great to have it just around the corner in Chichester at Pallant. So I've given my brush layer lots of time to dry. Overnight is probably needed. And it's really interesting to see the way the liquid has pooled and dried with lots of beautiful texture. Next, I need to make my second layer, which is my dry point layer. So I'm going to need some more dry point plastic. This time I'm going to use a smaller sheet, and I'm going to scribe in some lines that I'm going to print over the top of my brush layer. So I have here some more dry point plastic. This time I've gone for the roughly A4 size, and I'm just going to scribe in some lines with an etching needle. I'm going to use a 2mm etching needle here. I'm now ready to start taking some of these prints. So get your registration sheets ready if you want to use them. I'm going to ink up my dry point layer with Akua Intaglio ink in carbon black. I'm going to start by inking up my whole drawing using a rag. So make sure the entire drawing is covered. You don't need to cover the whole plate. So next I'm going to use a piece of mount board and use it to work that ink into the lines, but also it's going to help take off some of that excess ink from the surface, which I'm just going to put back at the top of my inking plate. At this point you should be able to see your drawing underneath the ink. I'm going to use a wad of scrim in a twisting motion. That's going to get excess ink off from the surface and also help to work that ink into the lines. Next I'm going to use some tissue flat on my hands, just pinch it between two fingers to take off some of this excess ink in the background. And finally I'm going to use a clean rag to polish the surface even more. I'm going to make sure to get those edges as well, and at this point I'm going to really try and not get any fingerprints on the plate. I'm here with my Abig geared press. I've got the tension nice and tight, my registration sheet underneath, and then my Brusho monotype layer face up on there. I've got some sheets of newsprint and I've got a blanket in here as well. My paper is soaking. I'm using some Snowden 300-gram paper, and now I've got it in blotting paper. Paper goes on top, then my newsprint, then my blanket, and I roll it through the press. So here's that monotype from the first layer. Got some really strong colour. Some of this really nice speckling from the Brusho, which is a powder, has come out. Got some lovely watercolory texture in here as well. Although this is monotype, which usually just means you get one print, there is still some Brusho left on this plate. Not all of it's come off on my paper, so I should be able to take another print or two from this. They're just probably going to be a bit paler. Now I want to do my second layer on this in the dry point, but I want to keep this paper damp, so I'm going to put it in a stack of damp blotting paper. So now I've got my dry point layer all linked up. I'm going to use my registration sheet to put this in the middle, face up, and then my print goes face down. And here is my final print. I've got these lovely smudgy dry point lines going across, and in a circle they overlap the Brusho beautifully, and then I've got my watercolory Brusho background. I'm going to print a few more of these using the different plates that I've made to create a little series of prints using exactly the same method. This series of prints has come out really well. We've got that beautiful watercolour-y texture of the monotype underneath, and then those spontaneous sketchy lines of the dry point on top. We also took some second prints from that brusho layer. The results are a little bit more subdued. There are some smudges in places, but there's still nice strong colour and beautiful texture. All the prints are slightly different. If you want to have a go at this project, you can get all the materials you need from handprinted.co.uk, where we also have loads of other videos and projects and tons of printmaking materials. So please do check it out. If you can, head over to Pallant House Gallery. The exhibition, Hockney to Himid, is on until the 24th of April 2022. So there's still lots of time to head over. It's in Chichester, so if you're local, if you can make a trip, it's absolutely worth heading down to see all the beautiful original prints. Happy printing!